So something like we're doing this like podcast type video to talk about our experiences as Filipino Americans. It's part of
Uh-huh.
Filipino American History Month. This episode we're gonna talk about blah.
For October, it's the Filipino American History Month. And so for this episode of this series that we're doing on both channels, we're going to talk about college stuff that relates to being a Filipino American, specifically like being Filipino American immigrants and being a first generation US college student. So, yes, I went to UCLA for undergrad. I majored in mathematics and computation. I hate that title. And I am now going to University of Nebraska Lincoln, and I am pursuing a PhD in mathematics.
Hello everyone, my name is Misha. I graduated from UC Davis in 2017 with a BS in computer science and a minor in communications. I have no plans of going to grad school because my undergrad, as you will hear later on, was chaotic enough, and I have no interest in becoming a professor and doing research. Well, like not formally. I like to do research on my own, but not like PhD, you know?
So we're going to talk about like how the application season went for both of us. I mainly copied her style for undergrad's application. So she's going to focus more on the undergraduate bit of like being a new person. Well, I'm going to talk about the grad school bit because I'm the only one in the family that's pursued a graduate degree, at least in the United States.
Yeah, so I graduated from a California high school. I went to a University of California school. So it's pretty similar, I think, to most. If you're familiar with it, it's pretty similar. The UC system prefers that you take SATs and SAT subject tests, especially if you're going for a STEM major. But you don't necessarily have to. And I think people are changing now so that the SAT and ACT are no longer required
I
because
think
Corona.
for the next 4 years, they're not taking the scores. It's completely optional because they're looking for a new exam to take.
Yeah. So there's a lot of tea about standardized testing, and there's a lot of I have a lot of opinions about it, to be honest. I'm tempted to not talk about it, but I feel like this part deserves to be talked about, especially since this is a Filipino American, Filipino immigrant video. Well, as an immigrant, I didn't know about the SAT until the first SAT subject test, which was when my friends were all posting on Facebook about like, oh, I gotta take the test tomorrow, I gotta wake up early tomorrow. And I was like, what is that? And I went to a high school that's supposed to be the early college academy. Not gonna give the name away because I don't want to give too much personal information away. But so this school's main thing is that they were preparing um, students who come from not so great, like the city is not so great, but the school is a charter school that's aiming to help really smart students get to the next step, which is college. And part of that is preparing them for standardized testing. And I, for some reason or the other, completely missed the entire conversation about standardized testing until the night before the test. And I was like, oh, wait, I need to take this? Wait, I need to take how many tests to get to college? Wait, I have to pay how much money? And it was all like confusing to me. So the my friends take it that Saturday. I don't take it because I didn't get registered. I didn't know that you could register for it. I didn't know that you had to register for it. So the following Monday, I go to the counselor's office and I'm like, so this SAT thing, like, what is it? And he looks at me and he's like, you didn't take it last weekend? And I was like, no, I didn't take it last weekend. He's like, oh, well, you're still a junior, so it doesn't matter. But I was like, wait, is it the same as ACT? Because I had just come from Michigan and I did take the practice ACT exam. I did pretty well on it. And so I guess because that came with my transcript to my current high school, moved on a lot. they thought that I was already aware about standardized testing, but little did they know the ACT practice test was mandatory for my previous high school. We just did it during the school day. So I didn't have to sign up for it. But for the SAT and the P practice SAT, you have to sign up for it. But anyways, this is a long story about how I didn't know about standardized testing and how I didn't know that this was a requirement for colleges. You can have fee waivers, so you don't necessarily have to pay for it. And my school did help a lot in terms of that because they were able to like give us AP and SAT and ACT fee waivers. So I was able to take those exams for free. But yeah, I had no idea that that was part of the deal. I was also taking a bunch of AP classes, not realizing that there's an exam at the end of it. I was just like, oh yeah, this is what the classes are. Oh, this is AP. What does that mean? Oh, advanced placement? Oh, like honors? It's like, okay, cool. So yeah. But I mean, like, within a couple of weeks, I knew that I was going to take an AP exam at the end of the year because that was like the main focus of those classes. But yeah, I was completely blindsided by the SAT, so I was able to sign up. I think in the November exam date, and I did not prepare for it because I didn't know that you had to prepare for it. I didn't know people like shelled out money for like boot camps for this. I was just like, I think the night before or something, I did like a couple of practice questions because in class too, we would do like SAT vocab from my AP Lang class. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm fine, I'm good. I did not. I was not good. I got like, oh my back then, the scores were out of 2,400. My first score, I got 1,400, and I was like, oh, that is not good. That is more than half. Oh, actually, no. I thought it was like, oh, that's pretty good. That's like more than half. And then my friend was like, hey, how'd you do on your SAT? And I was like, oh, I got 1,400. And the face that she made, she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, why? And she's like, dude, I got a 1,900 and I thought I did that. And I was like,
Oh
oh,
my god.
but like the score matters like that much. Like I got over half. I mean, like I was sad because I'm used to like getting like 90s, 90% and above, but I was like, fuck, I don't know what do you mean. So I looked it up and I looked up what is the desired score for UCs, and it's about, I believe it was 1650 at the time. And then my friend asked me, did you like study? And I was like, yeah, I did. And then she's like, oh, what book did you use? Maybe it was like an old edition. And I was like, what book? She's like, and then I found out that Barnes and Noble, the place that we go to like pretty much every weekend, has a section for these exam guides. And I was like, oh, and it was like these thick ass books. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll get one. And I turned around, and I was like, 45 fucking dollars. Take it. What? So yeah, that was my exposure to standardized testing. And it was a lot of shock, and because I was so unprepared for it, um, I had taken the general test, I think 2 or 3 times, and I did improve. I think my highest score, not cumulatively, they do like this thing where you can pick your best out of the set. So my highest best score, I believe, was 2,100. So that was really, really good. Um, and it was so funny because I was super proud of that. And then I think like I was a freshman at Davis, and then this guy was like, "Yeah, I only got 2,300. I wish I could have gotten it perfect." I felt really dumb, and I was like, "You felt dumb? I had 1,400." Um, Kept my mouth shut, of course. But yeah, it's pretty sad to be honest because I was so unprepared that I didn't realize you also had to take subject tests. Like the UC said it's recommended, but I found that they actually mean almost required. So the only time I could take a subject test was the same day as a decathlon event. And because I wasn't able to go to the decathlon event because I had to take the subject tests, I was bumped down off the varsity decathlon team. And the advisor was really sad, and I was really sad because we were sure that I was going to bring home the speech award. Oh, God. I'm still like sad about it, thinking about it right now. But yeah, because I was the first one and nobody told me I had to do all of these things, I was blindsided constantly during my senior and junior year. But it turned out okay. I got into college at Davis. I also got into a few other colleges, but yeah, it was shocking how much I didn't know. I rambled on too much. I am so sorry. I want to hear about your GRE experience.
Okay, so for like the whole SAT ACT thing, I was like, I've been watching like a shit ton of videos on it of like people just like, oh, here's what I got and here's how I studied. So I was like, okay, I don't have the money because I'm poor to get like a study prep material like that. So I'm just gonna try and find old exams online. I guess for the GRE, that one, I had like I had thought that I was prepared for it based on what I knew from the undergrad exams. But what people don't tell you is that it's drastically different when it's the GRE. Because what happens is what's different is for the GRE, the normal GRE, because I took the GRE normally and the subject text for math because that's required. It's like so like uh sterile. It's so controlled. Like you walk into this establishment and like they ask for your ID. They give you a key for a locker to like put your stuff in. You can't like check it in the moment in the time period of your exam unless it's like your 30-minute break and like you can't check it. And then they like have a metal detector and like they tell you to like cuff up your jeans, like roll up your sleeve, and like they detect you just in case like you brought any like electronics that'll help you cheat. They made me take off my glasses just to see if it was like the smart glasses, and I was like, I walk into this establishment like I thought this was gonna be like the SAT where I'm just gonna be with like a bunch of other people and like we're in a classroom in a high school. But no, it was just so like scary. And I was like, whoa, like the first 5 minutes being there, I was already freaking defeated because I'm just like, this is so different. And so like you walk into a room, they like sit you down in this cubicle. It's like a laptop or like a computer, a keyboard, a mouse, some headphones, and there's a camera like looking straight at you from up top. And like if you needed to go to the bathroom, you needed to raise your hand at the camera and then somebody would come pick you up and tell you, follow me. It was like, what kind of dystopian world is this? So like I was already like mentally challenged because one, I actually didn't study for it. I studied like the math section because I'm like, if anything, they just need to know that I can read and write just decently well. So I need to do like decently well on that. I don't need to do perfect score. But the math one was where I studied. And then like another thing that they don't tell you about the GRE is that after you click finish, they tell you your score like right there, like boom, that's your score from the English and from the math part, but like not the writing because that takes a while for like a grader to read. But like I found out my score like right there. I'm just like, wait, is that really my score? Or like I thought I was supposed to wait like 5 weeks for this. I looked online to see like what the percentiles were, and I was like, I did decently well for somebody that gave up like halfway through the English. But yeah, that was my GRE, and then like the subject test. Now the subject test, like I did the subject test after the general exam, and so I was here thinking like, oh, it's gonna be sterile. I'm gonna be in like a cubicle again. It's gonna be like so like controlled. And we were and like I walk in and I was like, oh, we're in a high school. Oh, this is exactly like an actual SAT exam because we're in like a school campus. And like we were late. The person proctoring us was late. So we were supposed to start at like 9 a.m. We didn't start until like 9:15. And I was like, what's going on? Like, where's our test? Like, I need to take this exam today because I'm not taking it again next month. So what's different about the GRE from like the grad stuff from the undergrad is that I had to pay for the GRE stuff. I couldn't find a fee waiver for it, or I didn't. No, I couldn't because by the time we reached that point in college, our dad was making a lot of money. So I didn't qualify for the fee waivers anymore. So I was like, nice. So I got to pay for it. And so I was like, one and done. I do this now and I do it good. And I did decently well to get into a grad school. I mean, it's the only grad school that accepted me, but like,
So I guess the thing that I didn't realize is you can actually rent out SAT, ACT, AP exam prep books from the library. And the other thing that I didn't realize is that if it's not available at your library, you can request it and they will borrow it from a different library. If it's not at all available, then you can put in a request, and if there's enough requests, the library will actually buy it using taxpayer money. So, utilize your library to look up um, stuff for it because it's really a game changer. Because like the SAT and the ACT, they're not testing your knowledge, they're testing your comprehension and they're testing how you test. So that was the thing that really annoyed me is that because we were poor at the time, our dad was making very little money. The beauty of that is that I was able to qualify for a lot of scholarships. The sad part about that is that I wasn't able to buy a lot of things, and I had to be really smart about taking the exams because I only had one or two chances because I only had one or two fee waivers. So I had to make everything count, and that was a lot of pressure to have when you're like taking a test. Like it's already hard enough that you're taking a test, but when you're thinking about I can't fuck this up because if I fuck this up, I'm not gonna get to college, and if I don't get to college, and I'm not gonna have a good life, which is like the thing that I operated on for most of, if not all of high school. So yeah, I think this is a good segue into talking about I guess like the other parts of applying, which is your personal statement and scholarships. So I'll touch upon scholarships first. Because I'm a Filipino American, I was able to qualify for certain Filipino American specific scholarships in my school district. In total, I believe I was able to receive $1,500 in scholarship for my first year, which was really great. It was definitely needed because like I said, my dad was not like we weren't in a position to buy me a new laptop, but we knew that because I was going into college, I needed a good one. So part of the scholarship paid for that, and then that scholarship also in part paid for when I gave my statement. What is it called? SIR, statement intent
mhm,
to register.
yeah.
Yeah. So I also paid for SIR through my scholarship, which my dad didn't know that I did that. So that when my brother had to do it, he was like, "What do you mean you need to pay money to confirm that you're gonna go to that school?" She didn't pay anything, and I was like, "Actually, I did using the scholarship money." So yeah, it's actually this just reminds me of all of the times that when my younger brothers were going to college, and they were like asking for things from my dad, and he was like, "What? What is that?" She didn't do that, and I was like, I did actually, and then he's like, well, what? But my dad's completely blindsided, so it's funny in retrospect. Like we can laugh about it now because we got over it, right? And we're all in better places. But at the time, it was definitely very stressful for him because like these costs to apply add up, and without the scholarships that I received, I don't know how my freshman year would have gone. I don't know if yeah, I really don't know. Like, cause like I think because your financial aid doesn't actually kick in until like a week into your freshman year, and by then you've had to pay like deposits. You've also had to like pay, to go to that school, like the travel to that school. You also had to like buy supplies. So there's lots of costs that my scholarship covered in the front, which was really, really great. And then actually, before I talk about personal statements, how was your experience with scholarships?
Scholarships, I only got the one Filipino one. That was
Yeah.
all I really applied for because I'm just like, I'm not looking. I didn't really care about like the loans and stuff like that. I was like doing this because I think $500 was enough to cover the SIR fee and a bit of the flight like costs. and that was like pretty much like what I used for it. I didn't really bother for scholarships because one, I think in my head, like I was just like, I'm not gonna get it, so why waste energy? So that's why I didn't apply to scholarships, and I don't know how true that is, considering how like I don't know. I just didn't think that I was good enough to get the scholarship, so I didn't waste my time on it. But I was like, eh.
Yeah. So I applied to a lot of scholarships, and a few of them, in addition to a personal statement, they also wanted to interview you. And I distinctly remember interviewing for this one and for this one scholarship, which was the one that I believe is for the Association of Filipino American Teachers. And it was a panel interview, and they just asked me, like, what does college mean to you? And I was talking about how college is how our dad would always say that college and education is the one thing that nobody can take from you. And I was just talking about that and how, even though my dad's very well educated, he can't get a job because he's not a graduate in America, and how going to college would really change my life, our lives, and break out of the poverty cycle. And I had the panel crying their eyes out. I I have no idea what is it that triggered it. I don't know if it was because of my impassionate speech. I don't know if it was because they felt it to be true, or because they related a lot to the story that I was sharing about my dad. But yeah, they were crying a lot, and I think at the end they like shook my hand and was like, "It's yours, it's yours," and I was like, "Thank you." Um, so yeah, this is just the segue to personal statement, which is honestly, it's like, oh, there was like that tweet or the meme that was like, just tell me you want to hear me say I'm poor and go kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, and I definitely, I had, I wrote a bunch of essays. That's my thing. Like all throughout senior year, when I came home, I did homework and I immediately went into writing essays because I applied to so many colleges, and I had a lot of scholarships that I was applying to because like I knew that I wanted to go to college, and at the time I wanted to go to college that's super far away. And I knew that if I was going to make that happen, I needed to have money, and I didn't want to ask our dad because I just didn't think it was going to be possible. So I was hustling and I was writing essays every day, and it got to a point where I was telling our life story to and it started feeling fake. It started it really made me feel weird because I was just telling things very matter of factly about like we lost our mom at a very young age. We had some financial turmoil when we came into America literally during the freaking recession in 2008. It's the worst time to
Our
fucking migrate.
minds.
My Jesus. Holy moly. Um but yeah, I was just writing all of these things out, and I just was like, at some point, because I had written about it so much, I started to dissociate from it because I was like, is this really what going to college is about? Is this like really what it like it felt like I was exchanging our life story for a couple $1,000. And then when I realized that, and it was a passing thought, but when it came, I just couldn't do it anymore. So I had actually rewritten all of my personal statements. I briefly touched upon it, but I focused more on the things that I did in high school that made me feel proud of myself. Because this is when I actually started to watch videos about like going into college, and people would always say like in your personal statement you should always like emphasize your first generationness, and I didn't do that enough. But it was a very conscious choice on my end that hey, that is me, but it's not the only thing that is me. And I guess in a way, it was at worst it was like I'm dissociating from that part of myself that I felt was a little bit shameful because it wasn't pretty and perfect. At best, it was because I wanted to prove to myself that I am worthy of something, not because I am pitiful, but because I am capable. So that's a whole slew of teenage drama, coming of age, and going to college that reflected in my personal statements.
My undergrad personal statement was written in junior year. Because I was ahead of the game and I was like, oh, I definitely know how to hit a chord for like the whole pity thing. So I did not like I was not ashamed of like the whole like I'm gonna lean into that pity because I will get into a school and they will give me money because I'm poor and pitiful. I didn't care. I was like I'm gonna finesse the system because they're finessing me. So I was like I was writing it and it was pretty much done by junior year, but then like I let it sit for a while, and then I had like teachers from my high school read it, and one of them was strictly like left a really like to them it was like a funny haha, but like to me it was like really hurtful for them to like actually say it out loud. They were just like they drew like crying like emoticons, and they were like "aw boo hoo," and I was like, oh wow. Oh wow. I was just
That's
kind of
messed
shocked.
up.
I was like, that's kind of fucked up. That's my fucking life. So then I was like, holy shit. So then that's when I realized I was like, this is actually really sad. Like the way that I wrote my personal statement for undergrad was like really sad that I had to like change it up. I was like, I don't think I should do I it's definitely a lesson that I did not learn that much, but it was like for a while I did like change it to be like uh, a statement of like conquest of like triumph rather than a statement of like please give me money and please let me get into your school because I am poor and sad. It was definitely that for a while, but then I learned how to change it. So it was like my personal statement at the end became like an actual personal statement. It was like this is who I am and this is why I am like this, and it was like nice. But switching to the graduate bit, it's been like 3, 4 years since I wrote my last like personal essay. The graduate one took months. And it was not because I rushed it because I wanted to feel like, oh, I finished it early. It took months because it was literally a journey of like self like discovery again. Because it was like there was a point where I was like, I'm not gonna apply to grad school because I can't formulate a personal statement. Because to me, I was like, this hurts so much. Talking about my life in this way hurts so much. And it's actually like just jaw dropping how much like sadness I've been keeping to myself. And like a lot of the essays that I wrote for grad school ended up being trash because it was like just a venting moment. It was just like a psychology thing where it's like, just get it out and then we'll like sift through what needs to be actually said. And I had a very good like advisor. She was kind of just like there for a moment in my life, but she's like a Filipina. She like a Filipino queen. I love her. She's so iconic. Uh, but yeah, I like sat in her office for a while. I was just like, I don't think I can do this application anymore because I do not have it in me to keep writing these essays. They just hurt like all the time. And then she sat me down. She's just like, one, it hurts because it matters to you, because it's meaningful to your story, to your life, and that's good. And two, uh, just because your life was sad doesn't mean that it'll be sad forever. Doesn't mean that just because this hardship happened to you, that there's no way to always twist it to be a positive thing. And like that really helped me like push through. My statement was definitely like a lot happier. Actually, no, it was actually a lot sadder than my undergraduate one because my one focused on triumph, while this one was just like, this is where I am as a person, and this is why I come to the doors of graduate school. And yeah, I think what's also different about grad school is that you also have to write a statement of purpose. And like as a Filipino immigrant, it's just like, what is a statement of purpose? It's just like, am I supposed to talk about the research that I'm gonna do? I don't know what research is. I don't know how to do all that. And like, I don't actually know how I ended up writing a statement of purpose, honestly, because it's just like, I don't know what I want to research. I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I just know the grad school is the next step. I think that's literally what I wrote. I'm just like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because I feel like we've spent so much of our childhood in survival mode that when given the chance to go above surviving and go towards thriving, it's like, oh, so you mean it's okay to have a dream? Like,
I mean, it was definitely still hard. Like I feel like some days it's just like you still feel kind of like guilty that you're thriving rather than just surviving. Like I bought a coat from Uniqlo and it was like $130 like a few days ago. And like after purchasing it, I'm just like, God, I could have probably just gotten away with like a $50 one from like Amazon or something. Like I didn't have to spend $130 on that. But it's
okay,
just
let
like,
us remind the audience that he is in Nebraska,
oh
and a
yeah,
$130 coat will probably be the only thing that will save him from Nebraska snow. Yeah, I guess because I've decided that I'm not going to go into grad school, and one of the key factors to that is because I absolutely freaking I was destroyed by my undergrad. If we're being really honest, I was I was the most productive I've ever been in my life. I had like 5 student orgs that I was super active in. I was president of one for a couple of years. I helped found the hackathon at my school with friends. So it wasn't my idea, but I was part of the founding team. And I was doing a lot. I was taking a full course load with my CS degree, and I decided to take on a minor in communications. But I was also really close to minoring in Japanese. So I was like working towards 2 minors and a major. I just insane. And I felt so alive. I was completely wired, living off of caffeine and sugar. That's probably why I was so wired. But and at the end of it, I was like, wow, this is really fun. Maybe I need to keep going and go to grad school. But no one really goes to grad school in computer science unless you have a very specific thing that you want to study further. And I just didn't have that. And like a year into working at Cisco, I felt lost all of a sudden, and I thought that maybe I need to go back to school because I rushed through school trying to get to Silicon Valley so fast. But now that I'm here and it's not cut up, it's not like what I imagined it to be, which nothing ever is. Um, I was like, maybe I need to go back to school and give myself that time to actually develop as a person. I actually was applying to grad school and I got to the part where they ask you about the statement of purpose and I couldn't write anything. I think as a joke, I wrote in my state, my purpose to go grad school is to find my purpose after grad school. And like, I was so lost. And I had a talk with my mentor, and she basically was in the same boat where she's been thinking about grad school for so long that now she's got a kid and now she can't go. So she's like, she basically was like, if you really wanted to go because you're compelled to learn more about something, you will go. But if you're just using it as an escape, you're not going to go, and you're going to keep pushing it off. So yeah, I've decided based on that encounter or like that experience that grad school is not for me. Not to say that learning is not for me anymore. I do a lot of Udemy and Pluralsight courses, but I do enjoy not having to like freaking talk about why I want to do it. Like I hate talking about myself in that way, and like yeah, it just sucks to like have to feel like you're capitalizing on your previous pain, but at the same time, sometimes I wish people knew how hard I fought to be at this place, to be at this point, so that people don't look at me like I'm just a diversity hire, you know? So it's a whole can of worms to go into that.
so this is the end of the college discussion between me and my sister and how being Filipino American ties with that. I hope you enjoyed this episode and hopefully you'll look forward to the new ones.
Bye.